Those are all zoning hearing board applications. What we'll do is go through each one of those. Michelle will briefly explain those, and then our option is simply to take a position or refer the whole thing to the zoning hearing board without any recommendation. So if we'd start with A, Michelle?
Yeah, so this is an application of Home Time Properties for the address of 933 North Hanover Street. The applicant wishes to continue to rent the downstairs residences. As they've converted those to apartments, they were not aware that that was not a permitted use there. So the work has already been done, so they have to file for a variance under section 350-197 to continue to use that as residential apartments. I believe there's 4 apartments there, is that correct?
4 total in the building, yes.
Yes, okay. And
2
the rest-
downstairs, 1's already a specific issue.
Okay, thank you. So you have the option to make a recommendation to the zoning hearing board in favor or not, or take no action as you typically do.
What was there before?
I believe there were businesses there before. I believe part of it might have been John Sione's tax accountant office, and I'm not sure what else was there, but they were all businesses there prior.
And you said that wasn't zoned for apartments, is that what you said?
Correct. Yep, the zoning does not permit apartments, yes, so they would need a variance, which is what they're requesting.
So again, we can simply just say we're gonna refer it to the zoning hearing board, or we can take a position. Struthers?
I'm kind of not seeing the issue with having the apartments there. I mean, there are apartments, I can't quite picture it, I know this building, but there's apartments somewhere along,
Hanover Street?
yeah, there are apartments,
Yeah.
you know. And I guess sometimes I wonder why people don't know this information. I don't know who would be the person to distribute it when people are buying property anywhere.
Well, I would imagine that would be up to the seller to disclose that information.
Okay, well, there you go.
May not be the case here, but they do have, the attorney and, the applicants and the attorney are here if you have any specific questions that they can answer.
So no one addressed that issue beforehand, before they started all this work?
No, nobody advised, and to clarify, these apartments were residential, and the work was just substantially improving the residential apartments which were already there prior to my client's purchase.
So they were or were not apartments?
They had been apartments for at least several years prior to my client's ownership.
Okay. It's still confusing me, so somebody said there were businesses there.
Before I'm gonna say at least 3 years prior to my client's ownership.
Okay, they were,
I imagine there were. If you go to Google, you can see what looks like business.
right, I pass by it all the time, I never noticed. Okay, thank you. I don't know, if I'm gonna say I don't see the harm if, you know, I mean, they're not destroying the property, they actually improved it.
It's not, it is not.
That's what they're sending it to
That's
zoning
why they're
hearing.
asking for the variance.
So
I just have a question, maybe
No, I'm done.
complimenting Kathy's. When they did all this work, were permits pulled? And at that point, well, that's why we have permits, is to see if it's conforming or not. I think, I understand your point, Kathy. I think I want to punt this to the zoning, let them chew on it for a little bit.
Yeah, so that's what they're set up to do for the zoning hearing board, let them take a look at it and come through it, so. Okay, we will refer the new business, or old business A to the zoning hearing. Moving on to B. That one is Next Capital, so you wanna give us a quick one on that, Michelle?
Sure, is there anybody here representing the applicant? Okay, Mr. Onquist, maybe, do you wanna explain the request? Maybe you can explain it better than me.
Good evening, Richard Almquist, representing Phoenix Capital Group with the law firm of Yergi Daler of Pottstown. My client applied for a zoning permit for the use of one of the buildings at the Strogas Flower Shop. They are equitable owners of Strogas Flower Shop, to have a canine, sometimes referred to as a doggy daycare. but it's a canine facility that's not involving kennels. And in accordance with the ordinance, they applied for, because it's a new tenant in that building.
Can you turn on the microphone, please?
Sure. I'm not touching it, 'cause the last time I touched it. Okay. In accordance with the ordinance, they submitted a zoning permit application, and your zoning officer has determined that it's a use that's similar to daycare center, even though it's for dogs, which would require conditional use under the ordinance. We disagree with that in order to preserve my client's rights. We filed an appeal with the zoning hearing board, our hope, and we have requested a staff meeting to see if we can resolve and answer questions, because in addition to the determination related to the conditional use, the zoning officer also asked for additional information. So we're hopeful that by supplying the additional information, we'll resolve the interpretation without having to go to the zoning hearing. Absent that, the hearing has been noticed for April 3rd.
Okay, any additional questions? Right now, this application going to the zoning hearing board, as you see on the front page 2, zoning board hearing checked right there. Nothing for the board of commissioners on that, so this is also one we can take a position on or refer to the zoning hearing board.
I think, refer it to the zoning hearing board, but when I read through this, I didn't understand. It seems like the denial also included information that wasn't listed on the form. You know, so can they do that? Can they supply the information again? Is there gonna be a fee involved for them? Cause, I mean, it's not their fault, they filled out the paperwork.
I think that, well, I think that's why I was asking for the staff meeting.
Yeah,
They'll present
right.
it there, and then I don't think it's gonna be a second fee. If there's more information needed to finish that application, they can
Right.
amend their application to include that information, if we get to that point. I
If
think
we
the
get
first
to
step is get to the staff meeting and see if we agree
Okay.
with them or not. So, like Mr. Almquist said, the appeal was filed as a stopgap. Once the zoning officer gives that opinion,
Mm-hmm.
they have 30 days to appeal that. If they don't appeal it, they're stuck with that opinion. So he'd be stuck with the opinion that it has to go to a conditional use. So he's trying to file that. He may never need a hearing. That's what he's hoping for. So, a hearing there or here is what he's hoping for. So I
Okay.
think let the staff meeting happen. We'll bring that other
Okay.
information in, and then we can answer your question better at that point.
That
whether
would
something has
be-
to happen.
What I would prefer to see happen before it has to go to hearing.
Agreed.
Okay.
Okay, so are you saying that we need to table this until we refer to the staff meeting?
I think, take a position now in case he goes, but you can always amend it later if the opinion changes after we have a staff meeting, so.
Okay, so we can give an opinion, or we can refer to zoning hearing board, given the staff meeting as a interim piece as well. So, what do you wanna do?
Staff meeting,
And stay neutral at this point until we have.
stay
a
neutral
second.
at this point, staff meeting,
So no referral.
no referral.
Others? I'm thinking we referral and then get the actual staff, get the staff feedback on that, just to see which way they wanna go after. But we'll put it in motion. If the staff is not agreeing on it, and they don't come back with anything else, then it's already set to go to the zoning hearing board. We won't have to readdress this. Is that okay then?
Mhm.
All right, referral to the zoning hearing board, with the caveat of the staff meeting and the feedback from that group. Thank you. New business C, this one is from Green Allies, so, Michelle?
So the township received a building permit application from the Save Alliance Foundation, Green Allies, to put in a 1,000 square foot meeting space at their property at 1794 Gilbertsville Road. It would be an indoor meeting space for groups of students and or community members. The separate single classroom building will provide meeting space, classroom space, educational space, and a space for camps and groups to do during inclement weather. And when the zoning officer reviewed the application, they need a special exception and a variance for some setback issues in regard to the application. So, they're expanding their, non-conforming use, which is why they need a special exception. and then they don't meet these setback requirements. So that's why they need a variance. So, this is an application from the Save of Mines Foundation, which the township does work in partnership with, to run the Old House Arboretum.
Okay, and George is here as well, so again, the options we have on this is to refer to committee, or refer with a yes or no to that. So, and if you have any more specific questions, you see the diagram towards the back. We'll also talk a little bit more about it on new business D as well. So, any questions for George before we do an
And
action
I
on
forgot
it?
to mention that the Open Space Committee did forward a letter to me in support of the application, and I did forward that to the zoning hearing board solicitor.
Hands raised.
Just let me get done with the commissioners, and then, this is a referral action. We need to make. Yeah, okay, we're gonna hold off on that. So commissioners, your discussion.
I do have, we got our electronic copy, I had more information than my printed copy, but this is all on your property and not on the, not on the open space
Correct.
property. Now, I saw the recommendation from open space to pass this, and as far as I'm concerned, that's good enough for me. I just want you to be aware, of title, deed restrictions, cause I know we've been going through a lot of, all the deeds, and some have some really stringent restrictions and some don't. I don't have that deed,
Okay.
but I know that properties around it have some very interesting deed restrictions on it, so I wish you luck with this, and I will go to the firm.
Others? So again, we're just,
Or approving.
others, we're just referring one way or another, so we're not voting on anything, but okay? So refer to committee. Okay, very good. George, you're gonna stand, we've got the next one.
Sure.
So if you take a look at that application once again, you see the applicant piece there, legal title as opposed to equity title. Zoning hearing board, you see where they have 2 items checked, on that one, and then also on the backside, for our particular action, so the Board of Commissioners, this is one we will have to vote on, it's a waiver for land development. As Michelle also mentioned, that, Open Space Committee included a letter in support as well. So I'll let Eric talk a little bit of what this means. There's, in your packet, you should have green outline's letter that they presented to the board, so Eric?
Yeah, so it's the exact same development, as Michelle, just described for the 1,000 square foot structure. The prior action on the agenda was the zoning ordinance, which we have no power to waive. If they need relief, they've gotta go through that process. The land development, which is subdivision land development ordinance, you have the ability to waive that requirement for, it's not subdivision, but it is a land development, since it's a non-residential structure being added to that piece of property. It would technically require land development approval and to go through that process. However, it is a minor structure. Within our code, we actually waive properties or buildings that are less than 1,000 square feet from having to do stormwater, which would typically be your concern on this type of thing. So they did submit that. You have the letter from LTL dated March 14th, which recommends, or doesn't recommend, it actually says the waiver request is reasonable and that no stormwater review is required. So with that, I think it would be the suggestion that it be appropriate to waive land development for this 1,000 square foot structure.
Okay, before the commissioner comments, it's, the person in the back that had their hand up, did they wanna talk on D? Did this issue, on,
I'm Joan Stevens.
did you wanna talk on this issue?
Yeah.
Please come on up, if you would, please.
I got a text from a neighbor of mine, last week about this, deed here with the Arboretum wanting to put this building up. Where's the access for this where's the access going from? That's what I wanna know.
Okay.
I believe they access the property from Nicollet's, the old Nicollet's Road onto Grandy Road. And then they also have an entrance to a parking lot that abuts their property off of Gilbertsville Road.
Exactly, okay. And that particular access road is the only access my husband and I have to get in and out of our property. And we've been after you guys for years to do something with that road, make it wider, my property line now runs the entire length of the Arboretum. I'm pretty sure I have the longest property line now with the Arboretum at 1720 Gilbertsville Road. And we are constantly bucking with people heading into the Arboretum through that old Grandy Road because they look at us like we're from Mars. Because we're trying to come out.
So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mrs. Stevens, that our Public Works Director was out there and spoke with you about Nicollet's Road, and there are plans to widen that so that cars can pass there and there should not be any issues. No traffic would be then coming off Nicollet's and going up your private driveway, they would be going left to go down to the Arboretum.
But are they making that?
Okay, we're gonna have to, the issue at hand is the actual waiver, so I think, Michelle, if you can get with Ms. Stevens and work this offline and see where we're at, I appreciate it.
Well, I stopped in today, but I didn't get a phone call back, but.
Yeah, you stopped in today and I had a
Okay,
family
we'll
emergency.
set
I
something
have
up.
your number to call you.
Okay, so we're back to we're back to the waiver act now for the land development from Green Allies. Eric just explained what's going on here. Other comments? Greg, you have anything on this? You wanna add anything? Anybody?
Just a clarification on, I just heard something new. This building 1,000 square feet roughly,
Yes.
Yes.
and we typically waive things under 1,000 square feet.
Stormwater.
Stormwater.
So I would say typically on a waiver of a land development, the one condition you would have would be to follow the stormwater requirements of
Yeah.
our ordinance. So I just wanted to point out to you that this is even one step easier to waive in that our ordinance actually waives the stormwater requirements for something this small.
Right, so
This
under
is essentially,
1,000,
this is equivalent to putting in a shed on your property.
sure, so under 1,000 square feet
Yes.
is typically waived. We have record of doing it. I don't remember doing it.
Yep.
So we're really talking about 1 square foot. If it's 1,000 or under 1,000, I think this is easy. Thank you.
More questions? If not, can I get a motion on this one?
I'll make the motion.
Hearing-
I'll make the motion.
Hearing a motion, is there a second on land development waiver?
I'll second.
Hearing a second, is there more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.